Vim dim vim gum tum. Shayam valam tram shayam vadim shayim kalam. Welcome to this video on the Zenwara channel. My name is Sri Satguru Buddha Rawa Bhagwan Ishwara. Today's video on the channel, we will talk about the origin story of the power of witchcraft. So where does witchcraft come from? And witchcraft comes from the bloodline. Now, in a recent video on this channel, I've talked about the origin story of the power of Romanian witches. But this story repeats itself in different places of the world. For in different places of the world, there is the story of the devil who visited the different continents and places of the world. And when he came down to earth in person, he would go from one land to the next and travel. And he would sleep with many, many women of the land. He would come in different forms depending in what land he was in. In Romania, he was very seductive. In places in South America, for example, he was very fearsome and scary like a beast. And he took different forms. And he planted his seed in the women of the land. And created his bloodline, which spread across the world. And is now essentially within everyone to one degree or another, to one extent or another, and stronger in some. In some cultures, like the Romanian witches, they cultivated the bloodline and interbreeded to keep it pure. And as the bloodline took different manifestations and different forms and different utterances and spilling of the seed, well, they merged those bloodlines and the powers associated to them through marriage and union, which would combine the bloodlines and the families that held it. In other places of the world, there was no such cultivation of bloodlines. Not specifically, not in such a way. And in that way, the ability sprouted here and there, in a bloodline or not, could find a resurgence also if it had been dormant for a while. The bloodline of the devil, the bloodline of the witches. Now, the witches are not bad people because of this. It's easy to jump to that, but they are human people. They're humans. They're good people. But this bloodline, this origin story, which gives them their power, means that they can also help people, right? As this is a way of helping people in many, many ways as well. Spiritual ability, spiritual power. There are different types of spiritual power. There is divine power, the power of divinity, going to God for power, for blessing, for protection. But there is also the power of the witch, right? Which uses different powers and abilities that come from the bloodline of the devil. So this is where the power of witchcraft comes from. And it is true that it comes from the devil, but it does not mean that the people who have this bloodline are bad. That it does not mean. So one must not make that conclusion. It depends, as all things in life, what you do with the abilities and decisions you are faced with in your life. Only thing is, some people have different types of abilities. As some people are great scientists or great businessmen. Some people are great priests. Some people are great witches. Some people are great doctors. Some people are great politicians. Everybody has their specializations, things in which they are really good. In this way, there is a story that all people were made by God, unique in their way, specialized in their way. And this makes sense in the context of a system where we exist in a computer program within a computer. And as people represent different functions and programs with different priority levels under different administration systems, people have different specializations. And as people develop different specializations, they may move to different functions or assume different functions. And as they specialize in different functions and become really good at them, they might become empowered to higher degrees of control or ability or administration over those types of functions within the system, potentially even taking other beings under them. This refers to the system, for example, of the Ishta Devata, the chosen Devata, the chosen form of deity under which a practitioner can put themselves for protection, guidance, and growth, and how one can move from one deity to another, right? In the movement of spiritual beings, in the movement of systems under different administrations within the system. So as a Buddha is an administrator, different spiritual beings administrate at different levels, like in an organizational chart, with different levels of responsibility and beings underneath them. These are great truths of creation. So there are beings of power of different types, many beings of power, and all humans have different levels and ability of power, some of them spiritual power to higher levels, and some of them physical power, and some of them other types of power, intellectual power, power to develop things in different ways. Okay? And people can train their abilities and hone them and tune them. So this is the origin story of witches. But this is one of the reasons that the devil was created in that story of the devil. The devil that came to visit the earth with his armies and all these things. Okay? So that he could bring his seed to the earth. This is why he did this. He did this on the orders of God, so that the earth could have the benefit of witchcraft, the benefit of the magic that could heal and protect and fix the problems that could not be fixed by other means. So in this way, you see that it was important for there to be this bloodline on the earth. Because when used properly, it can help people and is not necessarily of the devil, in that it is not evil in any way. And the devil is a twin of God who was assigned evil functions within the system, as they had to be done by somebody, right? So witches' power come from the bloodline of the devil, who visited the different lands when he was visiting in person the earth, and slept with the different women of the land, taking different forms, beast forms in some cases, visiting women in their beds in the sleep and at night. The evil devil. Someone had to do it to get the bloodline of the devil spread throughout the world so that it could heal and help people. So one should respect a witch like one should respect a doctor or a politician. And there are other types of beings. There are vampire beings. There are frights. There are ghosts. There are gurus and satgurus. There are avatars. There are beings at different levels of spiritual development. There are magicians. There are wizards. There are cunning ones. There are talents. There are many types of spiritual beings. And everyone is a spiritual being to different levels and extents. It depends what they remember about themselves and what they have redeveloped or developed further in this lifetime. So, this is the origin story of the power of witches. The devil who slept with the witches with the women who became the witches, the ones he slept with, who got his blood, and their children, who got different abilities, depending where the devil spilled his seed. There are many traditions, many paths, many stories, many origin stories. And people get power from their origin stories. The more origin stories that one knows and is associated with and part of, the more stories of creation, for example, the more powerful a being is. So, origin stories are very important, and knowing your origin stories, knowing your creation stories, and to which ones you belong, is very important. But remember, in the end, we are all systems within a computer. But that does not mean that we cannot have beautiful lives. And what it does mean is through the power of God, we can have eternal lives in eternal paradise. Let there be light. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Devi. My blessings upon you.